Welcome to another episode of Life in Bloom with Jess, where I have intimate and enlightening conversations with inspirational women in my life, asking questions, sharing stories, and learning from their lived experiences. And these women have helped shape who I am, and maybe they'll do the same for you. My next guest is one of my dearest friends. We met back in 2013 while living in San Diego, California, and have really been growing alongside each other ever since. She is 33 years old, holds a BA in liberal studies and a master's in education. She spent 5 years as an elementary school teacher and now dedicates her time to helping others heal as a sober living house manager and a Reiki practitioner in Orange County. She's also in the early stages of launching her own Reiki practice, blending care, energy, and intention into everything that she does. Born and raised in Temecula, she's been a steady, soul centered presence in my life. Please welcome one of my dearest friends, Desiree Quinones.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, it's so good to see your face.
I was thinking about when we first met in San Diego, which was 2013, 2014, and do you remember the first time that we met?
Briefly, very briefly.
Very briefly, too. Was it when I was living in that ratchet studio and
Mm-hmm.
Morgan came over and you came over with Morgan?
I was living with Morgan, and that's how we met. We met through Morgan, and she was like, "I'm going to my friend's house. Like, do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." Because you know me, not someone with many friends, so I was like, "Yeah, come along." I came along and you were getting ready. I don't know what you were getting ready to go and do, but you had, I mean, just traditional dress of the back then was just clothes everywhere and panicking about what you should wear and how you should do your makeup.
And I think that's when I think what like for five of us living in there at that time, and then I don't even know when the transition became of you and I becoming friends and that being a separate friendship, but I feel like it just happened. Like I felt like I just met you and it was just like, oh well yeah, like she's clearly going to be my friend.
Yeah, it was pretty instantaneous for me as well. I think our personalities, even though we're opposite in a lot of ways, like there's a lot of things about us that I feel like we connected on really quickly. And our family values, just things like that. And also how we both hold friendships like very near and dear to our hearts. I think that's something that hasn't changed. So I think automatically we both kind of knew, like, okay, like this is a safe person to be a friend with. Like, I can actually call this person my friend.
Yeah, it was like an instant connection that I had with you. And I feel like and we are so different, but I think one of the things that I loved about you was you were just so honest and blunt and just not afraid to say anything. And I was just like, "Oh, yeah. Like that's yeah, that's my family. That that's totally that's my vibe immediately." And I think just from then on I appreciate and love that that's just always kind of been I think the core foundation of our friendship, like just being able to say and not feeling, oh God, not feeling like you have to tiptoe around anything, which is something I've always loved about you.
Same, vice versa. You know, we've had some hard conversations that I think I know for myself, hard conversations are something that I absolutely despise, and I'm really good at avoiding them. But you are a person that has, when we've had hard conversations, you've come to me with like empathy and love, and I know that it's coming from a good place. So you made having those hard conversations a little bit easier, and I never felt like I was being judged. I never felt like oh, she's not gonna want to be my friend anymore, or I have to go silent on her, like nope, this is not somebody that I can talk to anymore, this is somebody that I can't be friends with anymore. So I think I really appreciate that about our friendship. I think it's not something that you find in everyone.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Empathetic, determined, and just caring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, those are so good, Des. I love that. Who is one of the most influential women in your life, and what's one of the most important lessons that she's taught you?
Ooh, that's hard. But so I have having two older sisters. You know, they're really big role models in my life. But I would say the number one person that I've remained extremely close to, always have been, is my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I think that from a really young age, she instilled a lot of great values in me and my sisters. But I do remember there was one time when I was in high school and I was going through, I now look back on it and I'm like, it was a silly breakup because, like, come on, you're not going to be with your high school boyfriend forever. But I thought I was at the time.
We all did. We all thought we were.
I know. So I was having a hard time, and she wrote me this card, and these words that she said to me in the card still ring true for so many different events that occur in my life. And it was about forgiveness. And she said to always try your best to forgive, because if you don't, it ends up becoming your burden, which is so
Mm,
true. Because, you know, if you're not willing to forgive someone, and that's not condoning what this person may have done to you or anything like that, but it's taking a different perspective of like, okay, am I going to let this hold me back? Because this is going to be this giant weight on my shoulders that I have to carry around if I don't forgive this person. They're not going around every day thinking of whatever they did or didn't do to you. It's
yeah.
you that's thinking of those things.
She wrote you a card.
She did.
That is the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Oh my god. I
I was
love
all
why does that make me want to
excited.
cry?
Like, I was probably listening to like Senses Fail in my room, being like, my life is over.
That is so sweet. God, I love that. I love that. When you're having a bad day or if you're in a bad mental space, how do you lift yourself up? Is there like a ritual that you do or a practice you recommend?
So I meditate every morning just to get myself in a good headspace for the day. With what I do as far as work right now and my day to day life, it's pretty unpredictable. Like, you know, I never know who's going to come along. I never know what situation is going to come up. And honestly, that's helped me grow a lot because I used to be very fixed
Mm,
and just set in my plans. And if things didn't go exactly the way that I had planned, I would fall completely apart. And so it's taught me to be really flexible. But meditation, definitely, especially first thing in the morning. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm really tired and I fall asleep during the meditation, but I
hmm
try. But if throughout the day I'm just feeling yucky or drained or, any type of overwhelming emotion or just feeling low energy, my biggest thing is being outside,
mm.
just being in nature. And I'm not talking like, I'm not climbing Mount Everest or anything like that. Like going
We're
on
not
like
we're not climbing trees, people. Yeah, just go outside, touch the grass. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like go outside, take a little stroll around the block. I try to do it most times without any headphones or distractions, just to, really take in, the beauty of what life is, as far as, the natural sounds, the sights, how colorful everything truly is. And a lot of times if I'm in a yucky headspace or yucky energy emotional space, it really just snaps me back into a place of gratitude more so than anything, just being grateful to live, grateful that I get to see the things that I can see, grateful for, the tiny things that I think a lot of us take for granted, being able
Hmm
to have two eyes that can see, having two legs that can walk, like these simple things that on a day-to-day basis with all the excess noise of life you really forget about. And whenever I go on a little walk, it just snaps me back into being grateful for those things.
Like, what does your meditation look like?
So I usually play them on Spotify. I have a little playlist, and I'll, depending on the day, most of the guided meditations that I do are pretty specific as far as, setting good intentions for the day,
Mm.
or forgiveness is one of the ones that I listen to a lot. Another one is just being outside of being selfless, more selfless in your life, and not thinking everything's about you. So
Mhm.
those are, I go towards ones that are guided, but I do also look for ones that are a little bit shorter, just because I don't have the capacity to fully stay ingrained in something for more than like 10 to 15 minutes, because my brain just starts going in every other direction, and then I'm not listening at all, and then it just defeats the purpose of even doing a meditation. So
Mhm.
I keep them pretty short, but I found that they help me out a lot.
I love that. I love that. What's something you were afraid to do, but you're so happy that you ended up doing it in the long end?
So this isn't something that I've talked about with many people, but getting sober.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was terrified. Um, I also knew that it meant starting a new chapter of my life, kind of starting over. And also, it meant asking for help,
Mhm.
which is not something that I am good at doing. I'm really good at masking things, I'm really good at making certain facades, like making it look nice on the outside, everything in a pretty package, and I feel like I'm dying inside. And
Mhm.
so being able to reach out, connect to the resources that I needed to, and get the help that I needed to, and just taking that step of just accountability for my own life,
Mhm.
and not being in a place of such overwhelming fear that I allow it to keep me from taking the next best step for myself.
Mhm.
So it's been scary.
I definitely want to talk more about that and what that journey looked like for you, but something that I think, but first, what I want to dive into first is something that I think is incredible and takes a lot of bravery, and something that I look up to you so much for is listening to your heart and making the changes in your life. And I think that may sound simple to someone, but making a change in your life is actually really hard, whether it's in a relationship, where you live, a career path, because I think it's a lot easier to stay the same, to keep things the same, than to actually change. And you were a teacher for 5 years, and then now you're a manager, a house manager for sober living, and also a Reiki practitioner. Can you explain to me what you do in both of those roles and how you decided to make that change into what you do now?
As a sober living manager, house manager, so I live in the house with the women. It's an all women's house with the program that they're in. It's a 90-day program, very home style type of treatment. So they go and they do programming at a center for a couple of hours a day. And then they come back here. And basically, my job is to not be everything for everyone, but also to make sure that everyone's okay. You know,
Mm,
make sure that they are readjusting to living a quote unquote kind of more normal life. Because, you know, anybody that has struggled with addiction, their life probably looks a lot different than they ever thought it was going to. And when you make a substance kind of your everything, and you spend all day, every day, just with the obsession of how you're going to get it next, you let the little things that people think are so easy for everyone to do kind of fall to the wayside. Making my job is to ensure, you know, that they're doing their laundry,
mm,
that we have assigned chores. So you get assigned a specific chore, they rotate, you get assigned a specific chore every day, because, you know, when they go back out and they're not in a sober living, there's not going to be anyone to do these things for you. So you want them to, it's kind of like a slow release of responsibilities, of allowing them to have a little bit more freedom than what an inpatient rehabilitation center would have. You know, they're very structured, and it's go, 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 go. You're being pushed in each and every direction. You know exactly what to do, but you're pretty guided, pretty handheld, whereas the sober living environment has a lot more freedom. So, they can come and go as they want, as long as they're done with programming for the day. They go out and they do their own things. They check in with us. We breathalyze at the end of every night, just maintaining sobriety. And it helps me maintain my sobriety as well, having those
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's been really cool. It's been a great opportunity. I fell into the position after I completed the program, for the company that I currently work for. So they saw something in me that they felt like, hey, we're going to offer her this opportunity. It was very unexpected, honestly. I was like kind of at a loss of what I was going to do next, because I knew that going back to San Diego for me was not really an option. I
Mm-hmm.
also knew that living with family just wasn't the best choice for me, being that I'm still working on regaining their trust and rebuilding those relationships. And I think living with any family member would kind of hinder that in some way,
Mm-hmm.
just add unnecessary stuff,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of better words. And then with the Reiki, so I was introduced to Reiki when I was going through my sobriety programs. And I was introduced to both touch Reiki and sound bowls. So the whole sound bath thing is what most people think of when you think of Reiki, but there are different types of Reiki. So the type of Reiki that I do is Usui, which is the touch Reiki. It requires, the client lays down, and I basically kind of do this sifting over them with my hands. If they're okay with me touching them, I'll touch certain spots. It is kind of, like a routine thing. It's not like a massage. So, I'm not like digging into them or anything like that. It's very gentle touch,
Mm-hmm.
but it is amazing. For one, when I was doing my training, I was just blown away by how much you can actually feel. So it's all energy works, right? So it's not meant to take the place of any type of medical advice or anything like that. It's just supposed to be complementary to the healing, because we are all made of energy. Everything in the universe is made of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, what Reiki is, it's tapping into internal energy, accessing the energy, the infinite energy that is around us, for
Mm-hmm.
us to heal our own bodies, because the body has this amazing way of, if you're open to it, being able to heal yourself, whether that be physically or mentally, emotionally. There's a lot of people that when I do the touch Reiki, they get emotional and they don't know where these emotions are coming from.
Wow.
They're laying there on a table, and tears are just streaming down, and a lot of times people will be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I don't even know where this is coming from. And it's like, no, like, let it just happen, because that
Like your
needed to.
body is like releasing.
Yeah, so most people are stuffing things that they don't realize that they have even stuffed. So,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be childhood trauma or relationship issues or just self issues, or mental emotional things. So that all comes out during these sessions, and it's just this very spiritual experience. It's really hard to put into words, but I have not encountered anybody that has come along and been like, yeah, that was all BS. Like, I didn't I didn't experience anything.
You're like, why are you hovering over me?
Like, can you stop?
That is
No,
so sick.
I think that it also comes down to the person being open about it.
Yes.
And there is a ritual that I do beforehand, and I think it's also easy. A common misconception that people think like Reiki is like this witchcraft voodoo. It's really not. Um, I'm not doing any type of seances or like spells or anything like that. But I will clear my own energy beforehand. I'll do what they call smudging with sage, and then I clear my energy to make sure I'm not bringing anything into the session that is mine and putting that onto someone else.
Mhm.
So I ask for guidance from my angel spirits and guides to guide me to help this person and allow them to be open to the healing. And
Mhm.
it's gone really well so far.
Were you ever interested in that before you had any sort of, like, contact with that way of healing when you went through the program yourself?
I think I always had this spiritual, I don't want to call it a gift,
I
but
think it is. I think it is. I think that you've always
spiritual.
been able to connect, even like when you were working with kids, or just even like with my experience with you in our friendship. I think definitely it's something that you've always like this. Yeah, I would call it a gift for sure.
Yeah, so kind of like this spiritual intuition,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
more of like what I would say it was or it is. And I think it was really easy for me once I found out that I was an empathetic person to just put it as that. Like, I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I'm just feeling what this other person is feeling because I'm that deeply of an empathetic person. I
Right.
didn't realize that there was even any type of practice that could allow me to help those people because, I would feel people's pain. I just felt so helpless because I was like, I can't do anything for them. I can't help them in any way. Like, I just have to sit here and suffer with them. Like, that seems really jacked up. But
Mhm.
I think that I deep down kind of knew that teaching wasn't necessarily my end all as far as the career goes. I think I just put so much time and energy and money and effort into it for so long. I thought that's the only thing I've ever wanted to be since I was a child. And
Right.
so again, with the whole fear of being like, just not even fear of others judging me, but me judging myself and being
Mm.
like, you wasted so much time, you wasted so much of your life. Like now you decide you want to do something different, like what if you're not good at it? It's kind of a little bit of imposter syndrome of like, what if you're just making this all up in your head and like you don't
But
have anything?
but I think that's I think all of those are valid feelings, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And you did spend a lot of time doing that. You did go to school for a long time. You did put in a lot of time and money and all these kinds of things. And I feel like when someone has done that for whatever career path of their choosing with whatever direction it was going, it's like you dig yourself in this hole and you don't allow yourself to change your mind, and you don't allow yourself to lean into that what if, because I feel like you're sharing, it's like I've always had this feeling in my heart, but I just didn't know what it was and where to place it. So like, what is something you would say to someone who is experiencing that and maybe feeling that fear of wanting to change directions?
Honestly, just make the first step. Nobody is living your life other than you.
Mhm.
And so, kind of try to just really zone in on what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy doing? What do you feel like aligns with your morals and values in your life? Because, as much as I loved teaching, there's politics that are involved in it. And those things were preventing me from being able to incorporate certain things that I wanted to include in my classroom and in my day to day teaching. And I just kept getting shut down, told like, no, we don't have time for this. No, that's not going to work. No, no,
Yeah,
no.
and being who you are, like being like staying true to who you are and not being able to take up that space in that kind of environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I would just say take the first step, whatever it may be. And even if you make a little mistake here or there, you have a hiccup, everything is a growing experience. You can learn something from everything. And the lesson never is you need to beat yourself up.
I think it's so beautiful that your sobriety journey has led you to this, and I feel like it's kind of given you that space to explore the gift that I feel like you've always had, just not knowing necessarily like how to expand on that. I do want to ask you about your journey as well. How long have you been going through the process of getting sober?
So I have been sober now for 293 days, so just shy of 10 months. And
Congratulations.
thank you. The process of deciding that I needed to reach out for help, that it wasn't something that I could do on my own, was I had tried to get sober on my own. a couple of years ago, and it didn't stick.
Mhm.
You know, I could go a couple of weeks, even up to like a month or two, but it was never anything that I was able to maintain. And I think now, knowing what I know, is I was mostly going through the motions, but I was also still somewhat in denial that I had any type of issue. And so it never in my mind at that time, you know, back in like 2020, 2021, I never thought in my mind, I'm never going to drink again. Like this can
Mm.
never be a thing again. Um, I thought, you know, I'll get the answers that I need to get. I'll get the tools that I need to get. And then I can go back to being, you know, what they call a normie. And I can, you know, have a drink with dinner and have this or that. But that's just not who I am. I have this thing in my brain and it connects with my mental and emotional health. And if I pick up one, I'm not stopping.
Mhm.
And that was something I think that was really hard for me to admit.
Mhm.
And the more that I experienced adverse life situations, you know, because growing up, I don't think I faced much adversity, to be honest. You know, I didn't have a perfect childhood, but if I planned something out and I executed it the way that I needed to, I got what I wanted in the end. You know, things
Mhm.
went as planned. And in adulthood, that's not how my life has been. And so I started to really take on a victim mindset and think that I am this kind of in a way, in a sick way, I'm like this special, unique person that all these bad things just happen to me, and not taking a step back and being able to see, like, okay, but what was my part? And in going through the process of sobriety and working AA, that's one of the big things is you take accountability for your part in things.
Mhm.
Even the things that you feel like you didn't, you know, if something happened and you had no control over that thing happening to you, but your part could be as simple as you're holding on to it as an excuse to continue to drink or use.
Right, right. As in, like, this happened to me, so this is why I'm using this. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm acting this way.
Right, because I would find every excuse in the book. You know, it's a nice day outside. It's warm. I want to drink. Like it's raining outside. I'm sad. I'm gonna drink.
Yeah.
You know, things as simple as that, or you know, I had a hard day. I had a long week. I have so much work to do. Things aren't going right in my personal relationships. I don't feel loved. I don't feel cared for. I have high anxiety. I'm depressed.
Do you think that I'm just wondering, like, the understanding of this. Do you think that you had always used drinking as a coping mechanism? Like, do you think it's something that you actually always struggled with and just didn't realize it was an issue? Or was it something specific that took place and then it became a coping mechanism? Like, how does someone know that it's a problem versus it just being something social?
I think it's really hard with alcohol because it's everywhere and it's very sewn into our society as a whole.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I can look back now and I don't think I ever really had control over it. I think it was just more normalized. You
Mhm.
know, in college, you know, everybody's, you know, woo, like going crazy. Like it didn't seem like I was doing anything out of the norm. And I think also for me, what kept me in a spot of thinking that it was normal was also that I was able to accomplish things. So in my head, I'm thinking, there's no way I can't be an alcoholic. Like an alcoholic wouldn't get this done, wouldn't get that done, wouldn't be able to do this or that. But there definitely was a turning point to where it went from. I don't think there was ever. I think I always kind of overdid it. I mean, you
Mhm.
can even attest to that. You know, us going out when we lived together, and you know, my whole like sliding into home base, leaving my keys in the door and just being sprawled out on the carpet in the morning,
Yeah.
or falling asleep at a bar. Like, who does that? That's not normal. But we just laughed it off, right?
I know, and I think that's why it's such a big question to ask, and like it's hard to answer because yes to all of those things, but then I think people will also be like, but that's just you in your 20s, you know? And so it's like, how do you know, how can you tell the difference between maybe just being young and having fun and having that be your lifestyle at that point in your life, to okay, this is something I need help with? Like, what is that turning point? What made you have that realization?
I think it's when your life becomes unmanageable, when you are completely powerless. You find yourself going to the liquor store or over drinking. It goes from being a Saturday, Sunday type of thing to now you're drinking on a Tuesday afternoon after work, to you're drinking every single day. I think also a big telltale sign is, are you drinking alone?
Mm,
That's what, for me, the big life experience that occurred for it that got me to the point of really starting to use it as a coping mechanism of not wanting to deal with feelings and thoughts was my dad passing away.
right. How old were you? Because you were so young. Like, you were the youngest person I had known at up until that point in my life who had lost a parent. How old were you?
I was 26 when my dad
Mm-hmm.
passed away. So,
Mm-hmm.
and he died suddenly of a massive heart attack. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like it was anything that I could have been prepared for at all.
Yeah.
And I had such a hard time. I was student teaching at the time, and it was really easy for me. They gave me 2 weeks off. I grieved a little bit with my family, but now looking back on it, I don't think I grieved entirely. I don't think I really grieved fully until this past like 10 months to a year,
Yeah,
because I
but nobody knows. I like no one knows how to even handle that. No one knows what that's going to feel like and how to even approach that, because it's not natural. It's like it's not a natural thing to experience. I think grief in general is so difficult to comprehend because I just don't think that there's any rule book at all. And I think that how at the age that we were at, you were doing the best that you could.
So, I mean, I just put my nose into my work. I put my head
Yeah.
down and I was just like, this is what my dad would want me to do. He would want me to finish. And, I did. And then summer came, and everything that comes with grief hit me like a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to drink by myself. I
Mhm.
started to hide it. So that's another big, sign. If you're drinking alone, if you're hiding it, if you're, even if you're still social drinking, but maybe you're like, okay, I know these drinks are going to cost me like $15 for one, and that's not going to do anything for me. So you pregame, but you're pregaming by yourself, while
Mhm.
you're getting ready or something, and then nobody else knows. So it's when you start hiding it, you start drinking in isolation, you're using it to not feel, kind of like just numb.
Yeah.
I think those are really big signs that you have a bigger issue than you think you have, and you might not think you have an issue at all, but that your life is just going to, if you don't address it, it's just going to get progressively more and more unmanageable, and you're just going to keep going down this dark hole path. And I don't think, as hard as it is to admit that you're there is nobody else that is going to live your life but you. So,
Mhm.
what do you want your life to look like? When I decided to reach out for help, my life was a mess. I had blown everything up, but I had done that, right? There was no more blame game. There was no more, oh, these bad things just keep happening to me. Like, no, Desiree, you're doing that. Like, you're doing it to your life. You blew things up. And now, if you want a better life, you need to reach out for help and say, hey, this has gotten to a point that I can't help myself anymore. I need something else. I need some direction.
What gave you that strength to be able to acknowledge that it's not something that you could do on your own anymore and that you needed to go to rehab?
I think just knowing that I had tried. I had tried for several years to do it on my own. And I always, it is a progressive disease.
Mm-hmm.
It starts creeping back into your life slowly. And then, before you know it, you're drinking in a closet at 6 o'clock in the morning with a bunch of hidden bottles all around you, trying to figure out, okay, time out. Like, I'm going to finish this bottle at this time. Like, how do I get another one? That's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and that's exactly what happened to me when I came to this realization. Like, you've tried to do it on your own. You look where you're at, look what you're doing. This doesn't align with who you truly are.
Yeah.
And it's easy in the moment to feel like such a horrible person and to be like, I've hurt these people. I've taken this precious gift of life and I've turned it into something that is kind of like poison. I'm literally poisoning myself. I'm poisoning the people around me because when you're in it, you're very selfish.
Yeah, you can't
And
see anything else.
you may think you're hiding it well and everything, but literally everyone that you are in contact with is affected by it in some
Yeah.
way, whether
Yeah.
you realize it at the time or not. And so it was just for me, it was just a matter of I don't want to live like this anymore. I I don't know what to do. I don't know what the next step is. So somebody please help.
Mm-hmm. What has been the most challenging part of sobriety?
The most challenging part, I would say, is just starting over. My life not being anything that I thought it would look like at 33,
Mm-hmm.
and being okay with that. Coming to a level of acceptance and also accepting that there are certain situations and certain relationships that I damaged, that it's irreparable. And even though I may be willing to make an amends and want to apologize to this person, they might not be ready. And I can't do anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Bridges that you burn and realizing there's no rebuilding that bridge.
What
No
has
construction workers on site.
I can't. What has been the most beautiful part of your sobriety?
Getting my family back,
Mm-hmm.
my family members, having their support,
Mm-hmm.
and just, you're gonna make me cry. um, Getting relationships back that mean so much to me. I mean, even my relationship with you. I think you knew that I had a problem as well. We had talked about it briefly here and there, but yeah, my family members, naturally so. When you know somebody is struggling, but you can't make the right choice for them, which I realize now is what I was doing to my family members. And so they distanced themselves from me. They needed to put in boundaries because it was like, Desiree, I'm not going to watch you kill yourself slowly. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not sitting around here for that. And I get that now. But in the moment, because I was so self centered, so selfish, I'm thinking in my head, nobody loves me. Like, again, just another reason to keep drinking. Like, I don't have anyone. So rebuilding those relationships with family members, making those amends to them and admitting all of my wrongs and being like, is there anything that I can do? Is there anything that I missed? And I think one of the most beautiful things is that all of the family members that I've made amends to, they just say, no, there's nothing else you can do. Like, you are doing what we wanted you to do. Like, you don't need to do anything else. We just want you to live your best life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been really beautiful, um, especially reconnecting with my sisters.
Yeah.
My sister Danny and I were extremely close when we were growing up. And so being able to get that relationship back, and she even told me, she said, I feel like I have my sister back. Like,
Mhm.
you were gone. Like, I felt like I lost a sister, and now I have you back. So,
Mhm.
wow, I did not expect to cry. What are you doing to me?
Are you serious? Of course we were gonna cry. Of
Not
course
me.
we were gonna cry.
How many times have you seen me cry in my life?
That's true, that's true. I just think it's so incredible that you have turned your experience into a way to help others and help others heal with you managing the sober living house and also doing Reiki. How has helping others become a part of your own healing journey and your own sobriety path?
Oh, it has to be. It has to be number one is giving back, being of service, getting myself out of me. Because if I am alone with myself, being in my head alone is like being in a bad neighborhood at night, walking alone in the dark in an alleyway type of thing.
Ew. Why did I think of PB? Ew. I like night. Oh, nasty. Ew. That's my nightmare.
No, but seriously, so like,
Yeah.
helping others is just so huge in my life. And I think it always has been. I just don't think I knew exactly how to do so. And then I think I really lost sight of it for a while. With teaching, it's easy to think that you're helping. I looked at it myself and I'm like, again, this was part of my denial was I'm helping kids every single day. I'm helping them learn. But was I really helping them? Because, in the back of my head, I'm counting down the hours as to when I get to leave. I'm neglecting certain responsibilities of lesson planning and making things I could have been such a better teacher. I mean, especially the last like 6 weeks of the school year last year.
You were just getting
Apologies
through. You were just surviving.
parents out there that were parents of my students because the last 6 weeks I was a freaking mess. I'm glad I never went to work intoxicated, but if I hadn't reached out for help, I was definitely going that route.
What do you wish more people understood about grieving a parent, especially as a young adult?
I think that the biggest thing for me that was really hard to identify about what I was feeling was a loss of security. So, even being an adult, I lived on my own. I was working, I was fully self supporting, but just to know that it doesn't matter how old you get, your
Mhm.
parents are always going to be your parents.
Mhm.
And so, when my dad passed away, and being that we don't have very many male figures in my family, so when my dad passed away, I just felt so vulnerable and unprotected to the world. I mean, you knew my dad, he was not gonna, if I came to him with anything, he always was checking in on me, like whoever I was dating at the time, like, is he being good to you, like this or that. And just knowing that I don't have that security anymore. There's not someone there who is going to love me unconditionally no matter what. And, I'm so grateful that I have my mom. She's an amazing woman, but
Mhm.
it is just, it's different when you're a female and you lose your dad. Like,
Yeah.
it just is this weird, that's the best way that I can describe it is just a loss of security.
What would you recommend or advice you would give to others who know someone who has lost a parent? Like how can they show up for someone who's grieving?
I would say, try not to put a lot of like cliche things on them, like, oh, I'm sorry. It's nice to hear I'm sorry for your loss, but when you lose someone that's so close to you, it literally just you kind of become numb to those words. Like
Mhm.
they kind of lose their meaning. And it just seems like such a normal thing for people to say when you lose someone. And you kind of just, at least myself, I kind of just wanted to shake people and be like, no, but you don't get it. Like, so my advice, if you know somebody that is grieving someone that is extremely close to them, um, just know that they don't even know what they're feeling, chances are. And just be there for them, whether
Mhm.
it means bringing them a meal or stopping by just to say hi on your way home from work, or, sending them flowers that, just addresses them, not necessarily the grief. So not sending flowers with a card that says, I'm so sorry for your loss, but sending flowers and saying, I'm here for you. Just going out of your way to do small things, understanding that sometimes the person might just need to be around someone else, like literally just someone else in the room, and be okay with that. Like, they don't want to talk about it. They might even want to have like a diversion conversation where they talk about something in your life. Like, just
Yeah.
ask them. I think that's a common thing that people don't want to ask, but literally, I think it would have made such a difference to me if the people that were trying to comfort me had just asked me, how can I support you? How can I be here for you? Because it is
Yeah.
different for everyone, and everyone's grief timeline is totally different. It's a roller coaster. I feel like grief is an extension of the love that you had for that person.
Yeah.
So if I'm being 100% honest, I never want to stop grieving my dad.
Mm.
And there are moments here and there where I'm sad because I'm like, okay, it would be great if he were here right now. But also at the same time, I know that that is a fleeting emotion. So, every emotion is going to come and go. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned as well, is to try not to numb your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
because you just keep them in kind of like this limbo if you do that, and they're gonna keep resurfacing. But the
Right.
reality is that any emotion that you feel, whether it be a quote unquote positive or negative emotion, which I don't really believe in putting those type of labels on things. Like, there are some emotions that you feel more strongly, but I don't think there's anything as such thing as a positive or a negative emotion. Like, when you feel a strong emotion, just be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Identify it. Be like, okay, this is going to pass, because everything does pass, and everything is temporary.
How do you honor your dad in your daily life?
I just try to remain true to myself and the values that I grew up with, being honest. And I wasn't honest for a long time. So
Mm.
leading an honest lifestyle, being true to myself, because my dad was a straight shooter, and he was always going to tell you things as they were. Also, just I have like a couple of little mementos, little gifts that like people have given me throughout the years that remind me of him. I have
Mm-hmm.
this heart little sculpture that has a picture of my dad in it, and it glows, and it's this amazing like 3D, I don't know, 3D 4D, whatever it is. But sometimes when I'm having a hard day, I literally just look at it, and it just makes me feel like he's like still here.
Yeah.
Like, I can still feel the energy. I really do believe that the human body is just a vessel that our spirits are in,
Mm-hmm.
and that energy is not, it's not gone. I can
Yeah.
feel him at certain times, and like, that's enough for me now. And I think it's a beautiful thing that I don't completely fall apart when I talk about him now. Like, that was a thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I can talk about happy moments. I don't know. It's this special thing that my sisters and I share, that when we hang out and we can interject little moments of, hey, remember when dad did this? Or like, remember when this happened? And we can all laugh and share that closeness with each other. And that's not anything that can ever be taken from us.
I love what you said about you never want to stop grieving your dad. I feel like that's such a special way to look at it, and such a beautiful perspective to have, because that feeling is, it's because you loved him so much. And I think that, and like you said, obviously, you still have hard days, and I think grief never goes away. I think it's just you learn how to deal. I think you learn how to live with it. I don't even want to say deal. I think you learn how to live with it, and being willing to be open to both the sad parts and then the happy parts of like you being able to share moments with your sisters, and being able to laugh, and being able to share happy stories about him, but still being okay when you have tough days. And so I love that perspective that you have of that. If you could talk to the version of yourself that was in deep grief or struggling with addiction, what would you say to her now?
I would say go to therapy. Girl, you need to get your ass in therapy. Um, no, I would definitely say stop being stubborn.
Mm,
Take people's advice.
mhm.
You know, I should have taken the advice as far as the women that were around me that I was teaching under with my student teaching, and they shared their experience. You know, one of the teachers, she had shared with me that when she was going through student teaching, her long-term boyfriend was actually her fiance. He passed away while she was student teaching, and she took a break. And so I was having all these people tell me, you know, it's okay to take a break. You know, it's gonna still be here. Like, this isn't going anywhere. You need more time than 2 weeks to grieve. You need this to be this time with your family. And I was just so stubborn.
Yeah.
So if I were to say something to that version of myself, I would say you need to take the time for yourself. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you aren't going to accomplish the goals that you have, but you need to take this time or it's going to lead you somewhere dark and lead you to being a person who you aren't.
I think also like you said, one of the words that you use to describe yourself is determined, and you are. And I feel like at that time you were just like, I'm gonna keep going. I can get through this. I can get through this. But then it goes back to not dealing, And I think everyone can relate to that. I know I can relate to that. And I think it's hard when you're dealing with a traumatic experience or an unknown heaviness that you've never encountered before. And I feel like your immediate reaction is to get, maybe even not even get through, but like get around it. And so I think that's so important. And it's not a sign of weakness. I think it takes a lot of self love to be able to take a step back and be like, I need some time and I need to figure this out, versus forcing yourself to go through something when it's just not time, like when you're not ready. So thank you for sharing that. How do you practice self-care or stay grounded, especially in moments when old habits or grief start to creep in?
Taking a walk is big for me. It's really key. Reading into getting sober. I refound my love for books, and then just taking care of my body, being aware of what I'm putting into my body, how I'm using my energy on a day-to-day basis. You know, am I eating things that are the best for me? Am I eating, things that aren't so great for me in moderation? Am I moving my body during the day? Am I in tune with what I'm feeling? Have I been of service to others? I know that sounds like a really weird thing when it comes to self help, but my thing is, I always feel irritable and really, if I start feeling myself getting annoyed, I have to ask myself, who did you help today?
Mm,
And more often than not, if I'm in a very irritable mood, it's nobody. And I'm like, well, there's the problem. Like,
mm-hmm.
you've been living in self. Like, you haven't done anything for anyone else. And as soon as I do something for someone else, it helps. It helps stabilize my mood.
What advice would you give to someone listening who might be in the early stages of either grieving or getting sober?
As far as grieving goes, I would say grief is so individualized that you don't need to seek out anyone to understand what you're feeling. I think the most important thing is for you to understand what you're feeling and what makes you happy. How can you honor that person in your life and not take it as a personal thing that this is a bad, and also just like not looking at it as necessarily a bad event,
Mm,
because life and death, they go hand in hand. And as grim as it seems, we're these are just human vessels that our spirits are in. We're all going to have an end at some point. And so cherishing the moments that you had with that person, writing them down, that would be a big one that I would advise anybody that is currently grieving. Get a grief journal.
mm,
They usually have prompts, and write everything down. as it is fresh in your mind, because the more time goes on, the more you're going to forget about these things. But if you write it down, you have it to look back on, and it's just such like a personal keepsake that you can have forever. And you can even pass it down to, generations after you. If you have kids and this is someone that your kids never got to meet, they get
Mm,
to know the person through this grief journal.
yeah.
My gave me one when my dad had passed away, and it's definitely something that I cherish.
What is something your younger self would be really proud of?
My younger self would be proud of me just accepting my weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was a chameleon for a really long time, being everything that I thought other people wanted me to be,
Mm-hmm.
trying to fit in. And I don't do that anymore. Not caring what other people think of me is just such a freeing feeling. And I had that in very early childhood. And I think it was around probably 7 or 8 that I started to just be like, no, like I can't show this part of myself. I can't show that part of myself. Like, this is not who people want to see. Like, they're going to think you're just like crazy. Like, nope, absolutely not. Like, you have to do A, B, and C, and that's it. So I
Yeah.
guess being my true self and being okay with, young me would be so proud of me being able to make mistakes and not run away and hide from them. I hated making mistakes.
I feel that, dude. The people pleasing tendencies are so chronically like ingrained. So I love that, and I relate to that so much. When do you feel you're most beautiful?
When I get out of the shower? I don't know. That's a weird question.
It's not a weird question. It's not a weird question.
Okay, well, I guess like
Like when do
when I'm
you when do you when do you feel the most comfortable in your own skin?
in loungewear.
Okay, no regrets. But is there a lesson that you learned that you could share that you want to share that could possibly help someone if they're going through the same situation?
Yeah, don't drink and drive.
I love you. Period.
The fun thing is I can laugh about that now, but so no, seriously, like don't
No,
do it. It's
seriously, don't drink and drive. Okay?
not worth.
Not worth it. So that's a lot of healing right there.
You're looking at either an $80 lift or like $10,000 to the court. So
Okay, not the courts, Des. What is one of your favorite memories that we shared together?
I mean, there's a lot. Shoot,
Yeah.
there's definitely. I remember the one that sticks out is your 21st birthday with the tutus.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun, and it was also the first time that I got to meet your parents
Yeah, my
and
whole family. My whole family.
your whole family. And I was like, this makes so much sense that she came from them. Like,
This tracks.
but also just I don't know. I loved the little moments of when we were living together, and like to be 100% honest, there are times where I don't know, technology is not really my thing, so little memories will pop up on like my home screen. And then I end up like going down memory lane for like an hour, just like looking at like old videos or pictures of us. And it was honestly just like those little moments, like before social media was like super like huge, and we would just make like stupid videos. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember there was a Vine. Oh my God, this was in Vine days. And
I wish I saved my Vine videos. I didn't save anything. It's so dumb.
And I remember I was like, I have an idea for a video, Jessica. And you were just like on board, like you were game, like right away. And
Always.
we got out, we got 24 baby carrots out of the fridge. And we played Bruno Mars 24 carrots. And you threw the carrots.
That is iconic. Like that is incredible. I agree with you. My favorite memories it's just like a compilation of like little moments of us just being in the apartment and like rotting, and just like being cozy or lazy, like hair crazy, like me dyeing my hair in the bathroom, like whatever. and us just like being together, like laying in bed, looking at stuff, just being in our room. Like that was my favorite. And then also one of my favorite memories is like when you slowly started to move in with us. Like little
Oh
by
my god.
little, because it was like you would come over and you live so far. So it's like we would just be like, just stay. And then one day would turn into two, into three, to the point where like your parents would come and bring you things. And like I just have this memory of like them bringing you stuff, and your dad is just like, what the fuck? And I was just like, I don't know, just bringing all our stuff.
In the freaking living room.
Yeah, and then you did move in, and it was like the best ever. It was a trap house, but it was like the best ever.
Those were crazy times.
I know. What is something you're looking forward to?
I am looking forward to continuing to just be genuinely happy, getting to have open and honest communication and relationships with the people that matter the most to me, getting able to be the daughter, niece, sister, friend that I didn't realize I wasn't capable of when I was drinking so much.
Mm-hmm.
I lost sight again. Like I said, I will reiterate it a million times. I didn't realize how selfish I was being, and how much I didn't have the capacity to be there for anyone, because I couldn't even be there for my dang self. So I think I'm just looking forward to continuing to build my friendships, my family relationships, getting to have a clear mind when experiencing major events,
Mm-hmm.
getting to go through them and remember everything, not have to fill in the holes the next day and be like, I think this is what happened.
Thank you for sharing that, Des. I love you. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a few rapid fire questions. Okay.
Oh,
What is something that everybody loves that you can't stand?
flowers as a gift.
Why? That felt like such a deep cut. Wait, why? You don't, you're like, absolutely
I
not.
know, that's why I was hesitant. I didn't want to say it.
Just say it. You can say that. So are you saying like for birthdays or anything, like you're just, or, do you mean like giving you flowers in general? Do you just think it's like unnecessary always?
I just think like I would rather have a cheeseburger or something.
That's fair.
So I think it's different if it's like a potted plant and like you can plant it and watch it grow. That's
Okay.
fine. I mean, like going to the store and spending money on a bouquet of flowers and then like gifting it to me, I'd be like, cool, these are dead.
Yeah, you're like, give me food at least I could enjoy. Okay, that's fair. I actually totally understand that. What is your comfort movie or comfort show?
Comfort show. This is going to make me sound insane, but it's always like those, for some reason, the like murder documentaries.
How can you watch that and then like turn the lights off? You don't get scared?
I just fall asleep like while I'm watching them.
You fall asleep while you're watching like murder, mystery, death things? Like that is so bad. Oh my god, no. I
Yeah, and then I
can't.
wake up and I'm like, dang, whatever happened to Betty Lou?
Still haven't found her. That's wild. What song do you listen to when you need a good cry?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's called In Your Arms.
Okay, In Your Arms, Chef's Special. Okay, I love that. What song do you listen to when you need to lift your spirit or like to get you through something?
These days, it's anything Sabrina Carpenter, honestly.
I love her album. I love her.
Getting ready, like I play some like busy woman, even though I'm not a busy woman.
You're literally so busy though. You're like running a household. What are you talking about? You're so busy. You're the busiest woman. Do you have a non-conventional hack that you would like to share? The one I always give for myself is blow drying my eyelashes.
I still do that, by the way.
Yes, I love it. I love turning people into a eyelash blower.
I don't feel like I do. Wow, this makes me feel like a really uninteresting person.
No, I think you're so crafty. I just feel like you can't think of one. Is there anything else you would like to share? Any last words of advice?
Embrace your weirdness. You'll find some weirdos that come along and they just like you for it. Also, if your friends only want to hang around for the good times, those aren't really your friends. Go get yourself some new friends.
Mm.
Because a real
Mm-hmm.
friend will sit there while you cry, scream, punch a wall, like be there through everything and anything. And if you are the person that only want to be around the good time people, you need to get it together.
Period. Mm-hmm. You know who you are. JK. Not really. I love you so much, Des. Thank you so much for doing this with me. This means the world. And I'm so thankful that you were open to sharing your story because I know it's going to help so many people.
Yeah, I hope so. I love you.
I love you too.